one of the Israeli ministers close to Netanyahu, as a matter of fact, he is the foreign minister, Gideon Saar, who Benjamin Netanyahu brought to his government after the reshuffle, after more chaos and havoc. This person, by the way, Saar, is a man who was in the Likud party. He resigned and had his own party later on. Failed, but then Netanyahu begged him to come back so that he can protect his government. Of course, with bribery. You know, I'll give you the position of a foreign minister, appointing people who are irrelevant in these places, like his little defense minister, Pudel Israel Katz, a man with no real experience in the Israeli army or the military establishment, being put there as a defense minister, despite the fact that he didn't even really know what the objectives of the war were, to a level where he had a meeting once previously with the Israeli IDF chief of staff, previous one, Herzi Halevi, when they were in Lebanon, and he said that the purpose of the campaign in Lebanon is to eliminate the Hezbollah. And then the IDF chief of staff famously looked away awkwardly, because he has a defense minister who's supposed to be giving him orders, not knowing exactly what the objectives of the war are. But that's Israel for you. That's Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. But now there was a revelation that the foreign minister of Israel is actually looking to ban the 200 shekel bill. Why do you want to add 200 shekel bill? You've added the 500 not long ago. And this is a very crucial note, the 200. It's very important. And this was revealed in one of the Israeli newspapers, to a level where later on the Bank of Israel and the governor of the Bank of Israel had to reply. So what was this all about? Well, the Israeli foreign minister, Gideon Saar, was saying that Hamas, the majority of the liquid cash that they have with them in hand, is in 200 shekel notes. So the Bank of Israel, could you please temporarily cancel all the 200 shekel notes? Imagine the reasoning. No calculation, like no analysis, no reading of the Israeli economy and how that can implicate the Israeli economy, companies relying on that. No, according to him, Hamas relies on the 200 shekels. And how did he know that? He says, we know because this is where they condemn themselves. Listen to that. We know because these were the notes that mostly entered Gaza previously. So you allowed money to go into Gaza before. So Benjamin Netanyahu did allow millions to go into Gaza, hundreds of millions to go into Gaza under Hamas before. Because the Palestinian resistance forced him to, by the way, after the 2014 war. Let's not that's why. So they know. They know that the money is there, and they know in which notes. And according to him, Hamas has billions in cash in Gaza, and they're still running the economy based on that. Therefore, we need to temporarily halt the use of the 200 shekel. Of course, the Israeli population went mad. Some people were like, hold on a second. We rely on the black market. We need 200 shekels. What's happening? Crime is going to go down, please. But there was a quick response. That response came from the Bank of Israel governor, Professor Amir Yaron. He said, well, no, we're not going to cancel. We're not going to cancel the 200 shekel note. That's not going to happen. And in his words, in the response, they stated, the Bank of Israel responded to the request and stated, cancellation of the note is not on the agenda. The authority to cancel notes by law belongs to the governor of the Bank of Israel. He added, despite the issue being raised, the governor has not yet been presented with a sufficiently well-founded professional justification for canceling one note or another. Again, blasé, like their whole existence since 1948, blasé. The proposals made on the subject by various parties do not meet any professional standard. Their feasibility for implementation does not exist, and they were not presented in an orderly manner to the governor and were not coordinated in any way with the Bank of Israel. Therefore, the governor of the Bank of Israel does not intend to exercise his authority and act to cancel any note or change the mix of notes in circulation. Fair, straightforward. We emphasize that the 200 new Israeli shekel note in circulation, like the other notes and coins, continues and will continue to be used as usual. So the governor is saying, well, I haven't been presented with sufficient analysis and evidence from the relevant bodies, just like garbage orders. You're thinking like you're operating some kind of a 7-Eleven here, order, and you need people to follow orders. Like Benjamin Netanyahu is creating his own minions now, the minions of Benjamin Netanyahu, pretending to be him at their own level. You know, I say, therefore, this is what needs to be implemented, and I don't want anyone arguing with me. Thank you very much. Full-blown dictatorship style. Now, after the governor of the Israeli bank said, no, it's not on the agenda, I haven't been presented sufficient information, it's not going to happen, and we're going to keep the circulation, Sahar went mad. Then he was like, oh, it's regrettable that the Bank of Israel chooses to evade even a discussion of taking economic steps within its authority in the campaign against Hamas. After the Bank of Israel rejected the previous proposal to completely cancel the use of 200 banknotes, the bank decided to reject a new and reasoned proposal to cancel a series of 200 shekels banknotes that were introduced into the Gaza Strip. This was done within a few minutes, without discussion, without any real explanation. Clearly, some of these organizations in Israel are sick of the government and they're not even really looking at them. They were like, they're getting an order, just shut up and look at them and say, no, no way. They're ridiculing them. There's loss of respect for the authority altogether, by the way, because the people have no faith. It's like the government's sending people to be slaughtered and they're butchering children. And, you know, that's it. The Bank of Israel is not an entity external to the state of Israel. It is obliged to examine a proposal of security importance in the time of war, according to Sahar. And they need to. You know, the positions of money laundering prohibition authority, tax authority, other agencies, they said stuff, and you need to consider. But again, they're not looking at them, the Bank of Israel. Now, is this proposal only related to Hamas and Gaza? Maybe not. In the past 2 decades, it has been more and more difficult for Israel, similar to other countries, by the way, globally, to use cash and move cash. Like now you see many locations, they tell you, oh no, we don't accept cash. There's a move towards these draconian measures. After COVID, things became even more intense. And this could be a test balloon from the state of Israel in how much they can control the currency inside of Israel, because now they'll tell you, oh, Hamas are using 200 shekels. So basically the shekel is Hamas. That's the new threat. 200 shekel is Hamas. But tomorrow they'll tell you, oh, no, it's not the 200 shekel is only Hamas. The 500 shekel is Hamas, and the 500 shekel is Hamas, and the 50 shekel is Hamas, and the coins are Hamas, and everything became Hamas. And make Israel a cashless society. Therefore, that's it. Either cards, or I don't know if they'll come up with a new coin in Israel. I mean, after 18 months of genocide, they can come up with a Geno coin or something. But that's what's happening on that front. And clearly, some people are not interested in what the government has to say. Moving on to the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about, this charming little fellow over here, Itamar Ben-Gvir, look how cute he is. He went to the United States yesterday or the day before. I showed you a video of an Israeli woman calling him a racist and a killer of children in Gaza inside the Miami airport. And he's calling her leftist. And she called him a piece of S and a dog and this and that. Okay. He went and met with the the expansion of the genocide cartel, you know, with these people, I mean, with this lot, the Republicans in Mar-a-Lago. These are the genocide supporters. Look at them wearing suits. They look all, look at that. Look at what they're wearing, you know. We thought mass murderers look different. No, mass murderers look like this. See how they look? This is what mass murderers look like. These are the criminals. These are the genocide coalition over there. And look at that woman smiling. Look, smiling. Oh, you killed 18,000 children. Oh, welcome. And this guy over here, it looks like he's stoned or something. Anyway, he's sitting there in Mar-a-Lago. And according to him, when he said that Israel needs to bomb food depots and water depots inside of the Gaza Strip, they were cheering him. They were cheering him and said, yes, yes, hail Ben-Gvir, hail Ben-Gvir, hail Ben-Gvir, yes, 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 murder more children, yes, yes. So he later on went to visit Yale University, some reports said, and people started shouting at him. People didn't like him there. I mean, come on, students in the US, furious about their own government, let alone about this fascist. I mean, fascist is lightweight to this man, Itamar Ben-Gvir, a convicted terrorist inside of the state of Israel. Imagine how extreme you need to be. Jeez, a terrorist in Israel, and you're a Jew too. Ooh. You need to be like something else. This man had an image of Baruch Goldstein, who massacred people on Purim while they were praying the Jum'ah prayer in the cave of the patriarch, Al-Masjid al-Ibrahimi. He had a picture of him in his house. He glorifies him. This man was in weddings where they celebrated the burning of infants, of Palestinian infants. I showed some of these videos on my social media channels. Okay. Now he went to Yale University, and this was the response over there. So the people are saying, shame on you, shame on you. They're swearing at him. And he's pretending like he's wanted, you know, like they're cheering him, you know. They're psychopaths, basically. They're totally detached from reality and from their surroundings. And he's cheering as if they're cheering him, you know. He's saying hi. And in one other report, they threw glass bottles at him too. Not sure if one of them hit him or knocked his head, or I don't know. But the report said they sent some bottles at his head, tried to hit him with bottles. Okay, that's the thing that we want to talk to you about. And here's the bit that I wanted to talk to you about last in this live stream. The ICC issued an arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, the previous defense minister and the current still serving prime minister of the state of Israel. Israel tried to prevent the warrants from being issued, like they tried to lobby South Africa not to raise the genocide case in the ICJ. Without success, still went ahead, and despite all of the pressure, the ICC ended up issuing arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. But Israel responded, of course, we don't recognize the jurisdiction, the ICC is anti-Semitic, and they are against the only Jewish state, and the typical victim card, and the typical, you know, couple of phrases that they use all the time to try and protect themselves from scrutiny and, you know, pretend like they are above scrutiny. This is what they always use. Victimization, terrorism, and trying to portray everyone who objects them as if they are something evil. Now, but they're still appealing. Okay, you said the jurisdiction doesn't exist in Israel. You said they're anti-Semitic. You said they're there against you. You said they're flawed. You said that the existence and the shape of the ICC, how it's actually formed, is a flawed thing, and they are there against the only Jewish state. Well, why are you complaining then? So they complained. They said, cancel the arrest warrants. Cancel the arrest warrants. Why are they doing that when they don't care, supposedly? Well, they're doing that because it's effective. Clearly, to an extent, it's effective. I mean, the main problem is that these international organizations, the ICJ and the ICC, the main problem with them is the fact that there's no enforcement. So you can argue about, for example, how quickly they have orders depending on the leader and where they exist. You can argue that certain things are flawed, absolutely. But the biggest flaw is the fact that there's no enforcement. Therefore, some people will feel like they can commit whatever they want. But clearly, especially with the response of some countries who bravely said, no, we will actually enforce the order if Benjamin Netanyahu or Yoav Gallant land here, or if any genocidal terrorist soldiers land in our country, we will send them to court or take them to prison. That's effective. That's been effective. And Benjamin Netanyahu, from his side, and also Yoav Gallant, who now resigned and trying to act like he's some writing a biography and whatever, as if, it's past him now. No, you're still a criminal, all of you. If you've hurt one child, you're a war criminal, let alone slaughtering over 18,000. So they're still interested in getting rid of it. Why? Because it has an effect. It has an effect. Why? Well, it restricts Benjamin Netanyahu from visiting some countries who are not abhorrent to a level to accept him. Who are not shameful to a level to accept him. A mass murderer, still butchering children to this day, to pieces, butchering children to pieces, every single day. That happens every day in Gaza. And the fact that your mainstream media doesn't show you, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And no, they ignore it deliberately as part of the big dehumanization campaign. Ignore, therefore it doesn't exist. No, it doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. It does not work like that. So the ICC responded. They told them, no, that's it. They were issued in a valid way. And it's there. So this report today, ICC Appeals Chamber rejects bid to cancel arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. The appeals chamber of the International Criminal Court today rejected a request to cancel or suspend the arrest warrants issued against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Army Minister Yoav Gallant. In a statement on Thursday, the ICC clarified that while it accepted Israel's appeal for a reconsideration of the court's jurisdiction over crimes committed in Palestinian territories, this did not affect the standing arrest warrants. The issue of jurisdiction, the chamber explains, concerns whether the ICC can prosecute individuals for alleged crimes committed in Gaza and the West Bank, areas where Palestinian statehood and sovereignty remain contested. The decision mandates that the matter of jurisdiction be returned to the ICC's pretrial chamber, which originally issued the arrest warrants on November 21st, 2024. The pretrial chamber had previously found reasonable grounds to believe Netanyahu and Gallant bore responsibility for war crimes and crimes against humanity. They ended by saying the appeals chamber emphasized that the arrest warrants remain valid and unaffected by the jurisdictional review, which will now proceed with further examination of Israel's legal arguments. So, well, the ICC is telling them, no, forget about it. Okay, we will talk about the jurisdiction. Well, at the end of the day, many countries, they do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. But in the case of the arrest warrants, oh no, you're going to get arrested if you land in an area or in a certain country that is willing to comply with the ICC. And many signing countries, many countries declare that they will be implementing that and enforcing it if Benjamin Netanyahu or Yoav Gallant land on their territories. Meaning, well, Benjamin Netanyahu, he had to constantly make certain moves to avoid anything like that from happening. For example, in his last visit to Hungary, he went to the United States after that. When he went to the United States, he needs to calculate his route. So Benjamin Netanyahu has to make sure that his route doesn't go over, his plane doesn't go over, fly over a country that might be willing to, or has declared that it's willing to, comply with international law and imprison the child killer in case he has an emergency landing. So, long story short, the child killers are worried. The child killers aren't really comfortable, and the child killers are also considering the ICC, despite the fact that they said it's anti-Semitic and we don't recognize the jurisdiction, and a couple of genocide supporters or genocide cartel members across the world said that they are willing to accept Benjamin Netanyahu, and indeed they did. I mean, Britain is doing it secretly, with the foreign minister. They don't declare, typically, British establishment behavior, pretend like we're not doing anything, and but in other countries, that's a big problem. Therefore, Israel is still trying to make a change with the arrest warrants and potentially cancel them. However, the ICC isn't being cooperative with Israel, at least in relation to the arrest warrants. They're telling them that when it comes to the actual jurisdiction, well, fine. It's an argument that because many countries don't really recognize the jurisdiction, and Hungary, where Benjamin Netanyahu visited, said that they're going to be withdrawing from the ICC. Likewise, there was a report that Belgium would at one point. The United States, forget about the United States, they already have the Hague Invasion Act from the 2000s because they were planning to mass murder Afghanis and Iraqis. Therefore, they said we already have a Hague Invasion Act. If the Hague dares to, issue an arrest warrant and they implement something, we'll invade them and kill them. That's how it works in international law, in American international law.